Good evening, Alexandria Democrats. Hello, it is very nice to see you. I'm not sure how many of you out there are members of the ADC and how many of you are not. So for those of you who are not, my name is Sandy Marks. I am the luckiest Democratic Party chair in the Commonwealth of Virginia. And as the chair of the Alexandria Democratic Committee, it is my honor to welcome you to tonight's mayoral Democratic primary debate. Thank you so much for coming. This is an exciting night for sure. Some of us are here to learn about the Democratic candidates' positions on issues we care about most in the city in order to make a decision about how we will vote on June 18th or before. The real political junkies in the room are discreetly crossing their fingers, hoping for some fireworks. You know who you are. But I'd like to take a moment to ground us in the seriousness of what it means to be mayor of Alexandria. On January 6th, 2021, mere minutes from here, traitors to the United States of America infiltrated the Capitol building and attempted to overthrow our democracy. Then sitting Republican President of the United States, Donald Trump, refused to intervene, a decision that would result in carnage of many kinds and have a lasting impact. From Richmond, the Chief of Staff to Democratic Governor Ralph Northam, former ADC Chair Clark Mercer, worked in tandem with Democratic Alexandria Mayor Justin Wilson to put measures in place like a citywide curfew that would allow law enforcement to detain insurrectionists crossing the border into Virginia, not only protecting the citizens of Alexandria, but also democracy itself. All of this is just to say that the big little city of Alexandria and its proximity to power has a role to play, not just in our lives, but on the federal stage and the world stage. The Democratic electorate of the city of Alexandria is one of the most educated and engaged constituencies in the country. That's you. And so many of us here have or will develop very strong opinions about which of our three Democratic candidates we will select as our mayoral nominee on June 18th. And I know that Alexandrians can count on us, on our party, to reunite on June 19th to ensure that we seat another Democrat in the big chair at City Hall, a mayor we can count on in January of 2025 should the need arise. No pressure. Before I turn the microphone over to our moderator, I'd like to urge you all to turn up your participation level a little bit on the 2024 election. Can't imagine why. So pick up the pledge to vote cards in your seat. Go ahead and fill them out. Either leave them in your chair, hand it back to one of our ushers. Thank you, Greg, for showing. You can leave it in your chair. You can hand it back to a volunteer on your way out, and we, the Alexandria Democratic Committee, can help you find big and small ways to contribute to the 2024 election. Don't worry, we won't infiltrate your inbox. I'd also like to give a special thank you to our intrepid debate organizers, John D'Annunzio, who is somewhere, Greg Delowy, who's down front on the timer, Ricardo Alfaro, who's, of course, right here, along with Dave McClure on audio. Thank you. Now, oh yeah, let's clap for them. That's a good idea. Now, please join me in welcoming tonight's moderator of the Washington Post Metro Desk, the incredible Teo Armus. Teo came to Washington, D.C. by way of NBC News, the Texas Tribune, and the Charlotte Observer, where he covered race and immigration. Now tasked with reporting on Arlington, but also Alexandria. And having been a press observer at the January 6th insurrection, Teo's understanding of the context of this race is why he's here and why we're proud to have him. With that, let's turn it over to Teo. Let's give him a big hand. Let's give our candidates some strength and encouragement. Here we go.
Thank you, Sandy, for that very charitable and generous introduction. Thank you, everyone, for coming. I think we've waited long enough, so let's get right to it. I will allow both of the candidates to introduce themselves with their opening statements, but first just a little bit of an overview of how tonight will work. We're going to start with those opening statements, then head into some forum-style questions, then some sort of more debate-style questions in which the candidates will each have the chance to answer the question and then offer rebuttals. Thank you very much for this water. And then we're going to have some questions from the audience a little bit later. So as Sandy mentioned, you should have received index cards for those, but please fill those out if you have any burning questions for our candidates. Then we will go to closing statements. In terms of timing, our friend Greg over here has 2 color cards, yellow and red. He will raise the yellow card when each candidate has 30 seconds left. Thank you. And then he will raise the red card when candidates' time is up. And at that point, candidates, I will be cutting you off. So please be succinct and respect the rules as far as timing goes. I should note also, there is, of course, a third candidate for mayor who is not on stage with us. Stephen Peterson suffered an injury and is temporarily hospitalized and is awaiting surgery, so he will not be able to join us tonight. But we are moving along with the show, and we have Vice Mayor Amy Jackson here and City Council Member Aaliyah Gaskins here with us as well. Before getting started, we flipped a coin, and that means that Amy will be answering first, and then we're sort of going to ping pong back and forth with all our answers. In terms of our forum-style questions, which is what we are moving into first, I have a sort of getting to know you, a quick 30-second question we're going to start off with, and then each candidate is going to get a 2-minute response per question. There will be no rebuttals. But first, of course, opening statements. You each have 2 minutes. Amy, you're up.
Ready? Okay. Here we go. All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you to the ADC and, of course, Teo for having us this evening here at Alexandria City High School, also my voting precinct. I'm very excited to be here. I am a hometown girl. I was raised here by a single mom, came here when I was about 9 years old and went to Patrick Henry, Hammond, and then, of course, Alexandria City High School when it was T.C. Williams. I proceeded to go to college from there and then got 2 master's degrees in night school from George Mason University, one in curriculum instruction and one in education leadership, administration of schools. So from there, you can see the trajectory of public service. I was a teacher in Fairfax County for a number of years, about 15, 16 years, until I had my own children who are now being raised here and go to Alexandria City Public Schools. Schools are a very important aspect for us, obviously, to fund them, to make sure they're fully funded, to make sure we keep our eye on the prize and keep it as most successful as it's ever been, like when I was here in high school, and it was one of the 10th greatest in the nation. So we need to keep our eye on the prize as we are fully funding other aspects of Alexandria, but also our public safety and our infrastructure and our affordability in the city are major components of why I am running for mayor. All of those things together, we want to make sure that our quality of life is never left for granted. We cannot leave that on the cutting room floor as we are trying to put money into other aspects of our budget line items. So those are things that I am going to be discussing more this evening, and I'm glad you're here.
Great. Aaliyah, it's your turn.
Well, good evening, everyone, and thank you for being here tonight. I'm Councilwoman Aaliyah Gaskins, and as you know, I'm running to be your next mayor. There's 2 things in life none of us can control: where and when you're born. The only thing we can control is what we do with the time that we've been given. And since my husband and I moved here years ago, we've used our time to serve. First with our church, then with Alive, and then with countless other nonprofits. Why? Because I was taught that when you see someone in need, you help them. And when you see a problem, you fix it. And so I ran for the Alexandria City Council to fix problems in our community. And since being on the council, I have worked with you to increase our dedicated funding for affordable housing, to create our city's first youth safety and resilience effort, to accelerate investments in our infrastructure, and to make sure that when we do so with prevailing wages, as well as project labor agreements, as well as working with my colleagues to create our first Office of Climate Action. I am running for mayor now because while we've made great progress, there's still much to do. We all deserve to feel safe in this community. We all want to live here and age here and grow here. We all want our children to be able to reach their full potential. And so, with my background in public health, urban planning, and municipal finance, I am dedicated to helping us get at the root causes of the issues we face. I'm dedicated to helping us plan more comprehensively and holistically, and to identify new opportunities for commercial revenue. I'm proud of the work that I've done on this council and the reputation I've built as someone who's responsive, who works with their colleagues and works to deliver results, as well as somebody who has built diverse coalitions across our community of young people, of seniors, of those who have lived here a long time, and of those who have just moved here, working with people who need help, as well as those in our community who have helped to give. And so I'm running to help us build a safer, more affordable, and more accessible city. I hope to earn your vote, and I look forward to your questions tonight.
All right, now we're going to move on to our forum section of the debate. We will start off sort of with like a 30-second icebreaker of sorts, and we'll start with Aaliyah. Please tell us something about yourself that most people in the audience might not know.
Let's see, one of my favorite things to do, I'm a mom of a 4-year-old and an 18-month-old, is I have a great love of planning children's birthday parties. From bouncy houses to petting zoos, this has become my favorite pastime when I'm not doing things for the council or working for our city.
That's great. Well, hopefully one day we can all attend a children's birthday party planned by you.
It'll be an experience you won't forget.
Amy, what is, same question, what is something most people in the audience would not know about you, would be surprised by?
I love to sing, but nobody else loves to hear me.
Okay. Well, in that case, hopefully none of us will end up singing with you or hearing you sing. All right, on to slightly more serious topics. We'll start with Amy. A budget is an expression of a city's values. What priorities will you ensure are paid for in next year's budget package?
Absolutely. Thank you for the question. So as I was discussing before, schools are number one for me. We have to continue that they're fully funded. We make sure that we have education programming for our teachers, make sure that we can attract and retain great teachers for our school system. And of course, make sure that our infrastructure of those schools is number one in the city, if not number one in the land. So also, we need to look at public safety. Public safety is also number one. I started an expungement clinic 2 years ago for the city, the very first expungement clinic, because people need a pathway for affordable housing and career opportunities. So expunging charges off of people's records that are minimal and holding them back, those are things that we also want to help with. As well as infrastructure, broadband. This also leads back into our kids. With our schools being modernized, we're trying to get them to the next step of life. If we don't have modern schools and have broadband availability within those schools, we've learned from COVID. A lot of kids did not have available Wi-Fi in order to be home and have technology for their classwork. So these are some things that I'm going to continue to put in the budget and make sure they're fully funded.
All right. Aaliyah, what priorities will you ensure are paid for in next year's budget package?
So it's no secret that we have to deliver a balanced budget. That budget has to be one that meets the diverse needs of our community. And it's why in every budget that I have worked on so far, I have led the charge to introduce budget amendments related to some of our most pressing issues, from housing to public transportation to infrastructure. In future budgets, I will be just as committed to working sure that we are funding our schools, that we are investing in affordable housing and public safety, as well as continuing the investments we need to address our ongoing flooding challenges. And finally, I'm going to be making sure that we continue investments in things like Visit Alexandria, as well as our small businesses, because our needs have to be paid for, and finding new ways to generate commercial tax revenue is going to be critical to make sure that we can fund these things that are necessary for our quality of life, but doing so in a way that is not always on the backs of each and every homeowner in this community.
Great. And I will remind both candidates you have a full 2 minutes for these questions, but we certainly appreciate the brevity. Aaliyah, we're moving on to the next one. According to a VCU/Nova study, Black residents are 117% more likely to die before their 75th birthday than their white neighbors in Alexandria. How can our city government repair this harm?
Yeah. As a public health professional, this is something that keeps me up at night because we're seeing it with our Black residents. We're also seeing a difference in life expectancy between North and South Glebe Road, as well as other challenges that play out in how we've made decisions about our community. I think to repair these harms, there's 2 areas we really have to focus on. First and foremost is housing. We have to keep people here. Many of our Black and brown residents are being displaced, and we have to make sure that we're investing in the housing that's going to allow them to be able to live here, stay here, and thrive here. I think second is we have to have a pathway to wealth building and economic justice. It's why I've been so proud to be endorsed by so many of our labor unions, because of my commitment to working families, because of my commitment to making sure that we are paying living wages and really creating new opportunities for Black and brown and minority entrepreneurs to invest in and start up their businesses in the city and build wealth that will keep them here.
All right, moving on to Amy. How can our city government repair the harm of Black residents being 117 more likely to die before their 75th birthday than their white neighbors?
Thank you for the question. So a couple of things that this goes to. One, it's just one, community outreach. Through COVID that I was on council on, no one wished that upon anyone, so I was leading during a pandemic. We were looking at partnerships with our health department. So we have Alexandria Health Department, we have Neighborhood Health, we have DCHS. All of these partners, including INOVA, that I was on the Quality of Health and Safety Committee on, well, I was on the INOVA committee as well as the Quality of Life Committee during my first term. All of these partnerships need to have the outreach to all members of our community, but especially the ones you have brought up. They need to know that they need to go get their blood pressure checked. They need to walk in and get to a free clinic and make sure that they are healthy and safe. And they need to actually then communicate to others who are just like them, just like the rest of the city should be, that you need to go get checked, you need to stay healthy, and your city is here to help you. So as we are doing community outreach to those unique neighborhoods in our city, these are the elements that we need to bring forward, knowing that some people's health are more vulnerable than others. And so hopefully we are delivering that message, and if not, I will be the first one on board to try to do that. Also, if some are not English speakers, then we can also get interpretations in other languages to make sure that that outreach is there and that people are learning that we are here to help them.
All right, we're going to shift and look southward towards our state government in Richmond. This question is for Amy first. How will you work with the General Assembly and the governor to ensure that Alexandria does not draw the short straw when it comes to sharing in state resources for education and other city priorities?
Thank you for the question. So obviously we're looking at this right now on pins and needles, going, please, please, please do not take away any more money from our education system here in Alexandria. As we were learning the other day, I think it's if no money comes to Alexandria, actually I learned this in the subcommittee, City Schools Subcommittee yesterday. I think it's $1.7 million that we would be under, but if we were funded, he would give us, the governor in Richmond, would be able to fund our schools with an extra $2.7 million. So we certainly don't want to see $1.5 million or so taken away from our schools. In terms of advocating for this, we are partners, of course, with our school board and our educators. We are partners with any collective bargaining units to go and fly the flag and make sure a voice is heard, not just for our students, but for our families, that they need to be in on this conversation and go to Richmond and say the same thing that we are. Please fund our schools and anything else that we need funding. We have a great delegation from Alexandria that we work with constantly, as well as honestly going down and testifying ourselves. I know I've done that a couple times for different things. The ERA was one. Guns not being on municipal property is another that I was down there for, making sure that our government, our Commonwealth, made sure that they knew what Alexandria wanted. Also, you have to get the PTAs involved. PTAs have a strong voice. They will be down there advocating as well as Moms Demand Action. Moms Demand Action, even though a gun sense organization, they also know how truly important it is for our kids to be educated on all fronts.
All right, same question for Aaliyah. How will you work with the General Assembly and the governor to ensure Alexandria doesn't draw the short straw?
So what I'll say is, for me, it is not just schools. I want to make sure that Alexandria doesn't draw the short straw on any issue. So no matter what the topic is, I think there are a couple things I would do. First and foremost, it's leveraging our legislative package, which is informed by each and every one of you, to make sure that we are putting in policies and principles in place so that when we go down to Richmond, it's very clear Alexandria's agenda, it's very clear what we need and the investments we're going to be fighting for. I think it's also leveraging and using the communications of the mayor's office to, when this governor tries to make attacks on trans kids or against our climate initiatives or other things that we're trying to move forward, that we're using our authority to write back and to push back and let them know what we will and will not stand for. I think it's also important to be able to work across the region as a mayor and make sure that we're building coalitions with other localities who share some of the same concerns that we do. And that's why I've been so proud to be endorsed by other mayors like Mayor Letty Hardy in Falls Church to think about how we fight together and stand as one to push back on things that would hurt our municipalities. And then finally, I guess I would just give you an example of one way that I've tried to use my time on council already to work with our delegation to lift up our issues. I started volunteering in eviction court several months ago and learned that residents in our community were being evicted for sometimes as little as $100. I brought that concern to Delegate Elizabeth Bennett Parker, and we worked together on a piece of legislation. We then worked together on making sure that I was informing her on the day-to-day data that we were seeing. I traveled to Richmond to be there to speak out for the legislation that she introduced. I met with her other colleagues so that she could have co-sponsors and others join on to that. And while unfortunately this governor did veto it, I think it is an example of how we can share the information we're seeing firsthand, make sure that our delegation understands what we need, and work together to keep introducing the policies that are going to work for Alexandria.
All right, thank you. All right, first things first, I think we have some ushers in the aisles who are going to collect any index cards if folks have them left for the audience questions part of the program. Yeah, pass them back. We'll give you a moment, but let the candidates take a sip of water. Thank you again for the water.
From our mug.
All right.
All right. So just to review, we are now moving on to the debate section of the event. We're going to start with a first question directed to Aaliyah. The way this is going to work is the first candidate is going to be able to get a 2-minute response per question. The other candidate gets 1 minute for rebuttal. Emphasis on rebuttal. You are sort of rebutting the other person's points. And of course, this is a debate, so we certainly hope that you debate. All right. So first question, this is for Aaliyah. With the Potomac Yard Arena project dead and 81% of Alexandria's real estate taxes coming from residential property, what can we do to better balance our income between commercial and residential real estate taxes at the same time that we develop our economy and protect existing neighborhoods?
So looking forward, I think there are three things we need to do in order to correct that imbalance. First and foremost, we need a citywide economic development strategy, one that leverages not only AEDP, but our planning and zoning, our code enforcement, the whole of city government. I think what we saw with the discussion around the Potomac Yard Sports and Entertainment District is that all of our resources went there, and that's important, but we also have to bring Landmark to fruition. We have Eisenhower, we have other strategic nodes that we need to be planning for and working with you on now. I'd say the second thing we need to do is also working on a very intentional and aggressive small business strategy. It's great for us to say we love our small businesses, but if they open and they can't stay open, then that is also going to hurt our commercial tax revenue. And so making sure that we are talking to them and getting out of the way when it comes to permitting, that we're accelerating their new ideas, that we are nimble and flexible to make sure that our government is helping them stay in business. And the third part is, and I think we all saw this with the past few months of community engagement and dialogue around this, is we have to have a better relationship with the state. There are tools, there are things that we want to do in Alexandria, and we can't do it because every time we have to say, Mother, may I. There are tools that counties get when it comes to economic development that we don't get just because we're a city. And so we also have to have a state strategy to make sure that whether or not we choose to exercise those tools, like certain lengths of tax abatement or other policies, that we have them in our playbook and are able to use them when ready.
Right. Amy, you have 1 minute for a rebuttal.
So, okay, can you repeat the question? Because I'm going to go off on one thing without addressing the other. Or should I rebut to that? Is that what you want me to do?
You should
Not the
rebut
question.
to that.
Okay,
Yes.
all right. I just want to make sure. Okay, so I was the only candidate on council to come out against the arena a few weeks before the actual. Thank you.
If we can hold our applause.
But what I did with that was we started out with a framework agreement from Ted Leonsis and everything concerning our Caps and Wizards and the arena. When we all came out, that's all we had because it was proprietary information. So from that point is when we started having community engagement. A lot of people feel that we did not have a very transparent, I forgot I only had 1 minute on this. There you go. But I do feel that I was in the right by coming out early. I think the numbers, infrastructure, and a lot of other quality of life issues were not guaranteed with that arena. And so moving forward, we need an entertainment district there that will help with the 82% residential tax base and make sure we have more commercial tax base coming in, because that land was always supposed to be developed.
All right. Then this next question is for Amy. What did the school board get right, and what did they get wrong in this year's most recent budget proposal?
Oh, good question. So the school board came to us with a budget proposal already. On top of that, they came to us afterwards with about a $10 million increase on top of that. I don't feel that they got that correct. That should have been something that was already part of the proposed budget, and the superintendent and the city manager may or may not have addressed all of those issues prior to bringing the proposed budget to us and having the school board budget in that. Now, getting it right, though, they are trying to protect their teachers. They do not have a teacher union. I was in a teachers union in Fairfax County Public Schools, FCFT, and when we get a teachers union for them, they will have one voice to be able to say, we did not get our frozen step. We want our frozen step from 2021. We deserve it. We worked through COVID. We were on the front lines like everyone else. That was not in the proposed budget, and that was one of the add-ons that I did try to propose and get signed on, but no one wanted to do that this time around. But I think with collective bargaining, that will come back around next year. We need to attract and retain our teachers. I also believe that when we are looking at our schools, if they are on the table ready to be built, and we have an $87 million George Mason Elementary that needs modernized and a $105 million Cora Kelly that needs modernized, and that funding is not full and in our budget already, that's a concern. We should have been on board with this last year in funding and not waiting till this year, where we will have to probably raise it a couple cents. Tune in tomorrow night. To make sure that some of these things are funded for our schools. So our school board did not get it right when we have to add on things after the fact to fully fund our budget, but they're getting it right in terms of the teachers and their career and our schools needing to be modernized.
Aaliyah, you have 1 minute for rebuttal.
Helping our schools pay our teachers and continue with the modernization and construction of critical projects was important to me, and that is why I moved quickly and wrote the budget ads to make sure we include that in our budget. I do want to respond to the Vice Mayor's comment that nobody signed on to one of her ads. I did not sign on to the ad because I also wanted to be mindful of how high of a tax increase we were going to do. It is frustrating to me when we have seniors in our community, single income homeowners, and others who are one tax increase from not being able to stay here. And so for me, I thought we were able to put forth a budget that allows us to meet some critical needs, hopefully stop the bleeding, but also be able to fund collective bargaining and other things into the future when our teachers and our school board and others come back to us for their priorities next year.
Next question, Aaliyah, you are first. We talk a lot about affordable housing and astronomical home prices in Alexandria. What housing policies would you put into place that would allow for there to be housing stock available at all price points, lower, middle, and upper income? 2 minutes.
Sure. During my time on council, this has probably been one of the areas I've dug into the most. I'd say in terms of being able to fund and create new units and opportunities, I was the one who wrote the budget ad to increase our dedicated funding, which now is generating about $5 million each year for affordable housing. I was also proud to join my colleagues in a 7-0 vote for zoning for housing, which is designed to increase both affordability, availability, and accessibility of housing, and has policies in there that impact those making $40,000 and below, those making the middle range from $50,000 to $80,000, and those at the upper range who still find difficulty finding housing in our community. I think moving forward, we focused on production. Now we need to focus on protection and prevention. And so in terms of preservation and prevention, I want to create our city's preservation task force where we are really focused on our seniors in terms of expanding property tax relief for seniors, home modifications, energy efficiency programs, things to be able to help people stay in our community. And in terms of protection, there's a lot more we need to do to prevent evictions in this community. Much of that has to happen at the state level, but it begins with our council working with each of you and our residents demanding to our state why we need these policies to help push back against sort of predatory and egregious landlords.
1 minute for a rebuttal.
Thank you. So speaking about the package of the zoning for housing, so I did try to pause the single-family housing element. There are 8 parts of that package. It went down in a 5-2 vote. I appreciate Councilman Chapman seconding the motion, and it was a 5-2 vote prior to getting to a 7-0 vote, which I was part of and proud of the parts that I wanted concerning office to residential conversions. Not a fan, though, of the parking reduction part either. That didn't get there. But moving forward, when we're looking at preserving and protecting our housing, we also need to bring into the aspect of, or look at the aspect of historical preservation, because that in a lot of ways, in Old Town especially, and in some parts of Delray, those parts are also historical. And we need to look at those when we are trying to build more housing around the city.
All right. Next topic is transportation, which is always a hot button issue in Alexandria. We'll start with Amy for this one. If you were granted a magic wand to pass one piece of transportation legislation through the city council on your first day as mayor, what would that be?
Eisenhower. We need an Eisenhower overpass. It has to go right over through either Quaker Lane. It has to get us another pass through to Eisenhower from the Quaker Lane aspect, or from, so, because we have the Telegraph Road interchange, which is a muddle of congestion, and we also have Van Dorn. We only have 2 ways to get to Eisenhower. So I would love to see a passover to get more traffic out of here and onto the Beltway quickly.
1 minute for a rebuttal.
I guess I will rebut by lifting up another policy that I would have used my wand for. I would use my wand to keep Dash free. Right now, we have to every year think about how we continue to do that. We have seen an uptick in ridership. We are now some of the highest in the country. More than 2/3 of our riders are low income. And so I think it's very critical that every year we shouldn't have to deal with uncertainty. This should be a policy that we have funded, and the magic wand will make sure we have the resources to do that in perpetuity.
All right, we'll see if we get a magic wand showing up at Alexandria City Council anytime next year. Our next two questions are sort of directed at specific candidates. There is one for each of you. We will start with the one for Aaliyah, just in the interest of fairness. Last year, a grant program for minority-owned businesses, which was created by legislation that you brought forward, was canceled after a lawsuit alleged that the program was illegal and discriminatory. If elected, will you continue to push for programs that assist minority businesses? And how will your approach differ from your previous effort?
Yes, I will. I think the reality is we can and we should do more for minority businesses. We went back to the drawing board, and actually next month, because of the persistence of myself and some of my other colleagues, we will be rolling out a diverse business grant program that is focused on connecting with minority and women-owned businesses, that is focused on grants as well as access to capital. I have also put in funding for our disparity study, which is a critical tool we have to use in Virginia to be able to then push forward policies so that we can have local hiring and local contracting targets moving forward.
1 minute for a rebuttal.
I guess my rebuttal would be, yes, we need to do more, but we also have small business associations in the Chamber of Commerce that also bring a lot to the table, as well as AEDP, and the Small Business Association is now under their umbrella. We do need more grants and funding for small businesses, minority small businesses in particular. We've seen a lot through COVID that have, of course, fallen through the cracks, and we need to do more to make sure that they are funded and operating and continue to be here. There are too many empty storefronts along King Street and throughout Alexandria.
Amy, question directed at you. In November, as you mentioned, you voted for the zoning for housing package, and touted its passage on social media. On the campaign trail, you've been described as an opponent of zoning for housing, and specifically of the eradication of single-family only zoning in Alexandria. Can you clarify your position for us, and whether or not you'll work to repeal any part of that package as mayor?
Sure, thank you for the question. So I wouldn't say an opponent of zoning for housing. However, there were a few things that happened during that entire process. One, I thought the process was too fast. I think a lot of people did. People were just finding out about what we were trying to do with policy on signs in people's yards. They weren't sent mailers. A lot of things from the city, when it's really important, like snow removal and recycling and things like that, where was the mailer for single-family housing or zoning for housing? There wasn't one. People did not understand what was happening, and then we were trying to go too fast to actually adopt the policy when there was no reason to honestly adopt it as fast as it did. We could actually wait for Arlington to go through the courts over there, see what happened before we then put it upon ourselves and maybe learn from our neighbors, because regionally, that's what we should be doing, interacting with our neighbors, our other jurisdictions, seeing what was successful and what was not successful for them on any area of policy, and then seeing if it works here in Alexandria. But we certainly could have waited until the court case came back instead of now putting this forward, and now we are in a court case of our own.
1 minute for rebuttal.
So I'd say the process and the policies for zoning for housing first started with our housing master plan in 2019. The decision to combine the policies and look at them as a package was because no one policy will fix our housing crisis. After that decision was made, we still went through a year-long engagement process. I think the part that's most important, though, is as a council, we are in these seats now, so we can shift and adjust things. When I heard that people were feeling like they wanted more engagement and more opportunities, I am the one who put forth a memo to my colleagues that then resulted in an additional public hearing and resulted in a town hall, more pop-ups, additional work sessions, and a session with the Planning Commission so that residents could hear and see the text amendments much sooner and have more of an opportunity to weigh in.
All right. We are ahead of schedule, actually. Oh, thank you. Perfect. So hopefully that means we will have plenty of time for some audience questions. It looks like we may still have some people with questions in the audience, so if there's someone who's able to grab those, we'll see if we can get through and if we have time for all of this. But thank you to the ADC members who sorted through these questions. Just to sort of go over the rules for this portion of the evening, each candidate is going to get 1 minute to respond to each question. And again, we'll just sort of ping pong back and forth. So Aaliyah, you'll start with the first one. All right. What is your position on moving to a ward system in which all areas of the city are represented by the city council? So I assume this actually means, just to clarify, that each ward would get representation, its own sort of representative on the city council, as opposed to the at-large system that exists right now, in which everyone is everyone is elected citywide. Aaliyah, 1 minute.
I do not support moving to a ward system. I think when I think about some of the issues we face, I'll take flooding, for example, and the decision to pass the stormwater utility fee. Many of my neighbors in Cameron Station did not want to pay for that fee because we do not experience direct flooding. By having at-large members, you had 7 members of council out there educating and engaging the public to say this is a problem that requires all of us, because it doesn't just impact Old Town and Delray, it impacts our whole community when some of our top business centers are flooding and unable to stay in business. I'd also say that if you think about it, when you elect, and you have an opportunity to do this in June, when you elect candidates who are responsive to your issues, when the system works, you should have 7 people fighting for your light to be fixed. You should have 7 people responding to every one of your issues. You should have 7 people getting back to your emails, walking to your community, and fighting for you, whereas in a ward system, you have 1 person against the other 6.
All right, Amy, same question. What is your position on a ward system?
So I too am not for a ward system. However, in being in community living rooms and town halls recently, I will say I'm open-minded. However, I think that we have a lot of civic associations that are able to fly the flag for various neighborhoods and communities. I think that we also have the ability to, like our boards and commissions, we have the ability to appoint people throughout our Alexandria in different unique neighborhoods that can still come and report to council and be a liaison between council and any of the unique neighborhoods and civic associations throughout our city. I think that ward systems, I think it's a little too much. If you think of the school board, that's really a ward system right now with 3 districts. And I don't know if that's working the way everybody would like that to. So we have a lot to look into, a lot to research concerning wards. But, the District of Columbia is right next to us, and I don't think that we want to be like the district in terms of our ward system. Thank you.
Interesting responses. All right, we'll start with you, Amy, on this one. How will you prioritize quality education for minorities and improve school safety as mayor?
Thank you. So improving school safety, right now we have weapons abatement in our 2 middle schools, and honestly, I think in Minnie Howard as well as ACHS. You passed them as you came in. So that is because we went through a few years ago school resource officer concerns in our community. I am a proponent of school resource officers because I was a teacher for 15 years. So I know what school resource officers bring to the table in terms of safety and trust and building relationships, like a community policing, but within the school community, and also then with families and the neighborhoods where the families are from. I also believe that our minority children should be getting more help. We also have, not just in our schools, but out-of-school programs, after-school programs that are catered to more learning on their part, tutoring, mentoring of those children, as well as making sure that
your time is up.
Language barriers.
Thank you. Your time is up. Told you.
Yep, you did. Yep.
All right, Aaliyah,
testing you.
You have 1 minute.
I will approach our relationships with the schools and our school board as a partnership, one where we are honest with each other, we have the difficult conversations, and we push each other to hold one another accountable. I think when it comes to school safety, that's why I supported the creation of the school law enforcement partnership, as well as the new subcommittee where we have council members and school board members working together to see where we go from here. I have supported the funding for the SROs, but I've also been just as diligent in my funding for making sure that we have more mental health positions, that we have more social workers, that we have more supports to wrap around our young people and prevent, really investing in prevention and focusing on making sure that we're wrapping around every need for our young people in the first place. I think when it comes to our minority children, the number one thing we need to do is continue to invest and support them so we can close the achievement gap, which continues to plague our city.
All right. Next question. Ooh, and we have more questions. Love it. Many residents feel City Hall doesn't listen. Voters feel bullied. They feel that votes are predetermined. How would you address those concerns? Aaliyah, you are up first.
I would say, this is one of the ones that honestly hurts my heart, because that's not the way I approach my votes and my decisions. I can't speak for anyone else, but I can tell you my decisions are not made when I step in there. I start by first researching the issue. I read every document that is presented to us, and even the documents that staff don't send to us right away. I try and look and go deep down into the data to understand what is it I need to know about this issue. I then go into communities. That's civic associations, that's meeting folks on bus stops, that's going to grocery stores, that's going out and finding the people who aren't always coming to City Hall to hearing their perspectives. I often then ask them, what are the questions you have? And so part of the reason why I talk so much on council is because I have a notebook of your questions, trying to make sure I'm getting answers. And if I don't get those answers, then I don't vote for something. When I do get those answers, or I see a way that we can change and adjust the policy, I do that on the fly to make sure whether it's as small of a condition in terms of a sidewalk or something much bigger in terms of how we might fund a major project.
Thank you. All right, same question. How would you address concerns about residents feeling like City Hall doesn't listen?
Absolutely. Well, I have in this campaign, of course, done a couple of surveys to make sure that the community knows that I am listening to them. But that is not just during the campaign. You all should be seeing us all on social media, me especially, running around the city. I didn't wear heels tonight because of that exact issue, but we are everywhere. And when I do that, that is my ear to the ground, being accessible, having the community conversations throughout this city. Also, when you walk into City Hall, you are giving testimony during public hearings on a Saturday every month. That is us listening to you. The vote has not been taken yet. We are listening. We are asking questions. We are hearing you. And all the emails that we gather, let me tell you, we can't not read them. We are inundated with them. So we are hearing you on every level. We've also put in to play a couple of town halls a year
Your time is
to
up.
make sure
Thank
that
you.
we are listening.
Thank you. Your time is up. Next question, how will you protect LGBTQ youth in Alexandria despite opposition from the state governor's office? Yes.
Okay. So again, our partnership with our school board and our schools, our superintendent, is first and foremost on this level. But we are also, what came to light during our budget season was that out of about let's just say 300 positions for our mental health professionals in the city, we're missing a third of them. We are funding for it, but we don't have them. So when we are looking at how to help them, we need to make sure that we have the social workers that we are attracting and retaining to our city, that we're paying them. If we start, I'd love to start, and I think this is happening, talking with the DCHS director the other day, interns, where we are already here with them. We are providing the guidance during education while they are getting their degrees, and then hopefully providing a place for them to land and have a job after they have graduated with those. But our mental health professionals are first and foremost on the front lines with that and need to be continuing.
Thank you. Your time is up.
One of the things I'm most proud of on the council is starting our city's first youth safety and resilience effort. As part of that effort, we now have youth ambassadors who are coming to the council and telling us their issues and concerns. Some of those young people are members of the LGBTQ+ community, and they have spoken to us about the areas where they want us to speak out and stand up for us. They want us to know that they want to hear us pushing back on Governor Youngkin and his attacks, whether that's through our own platforms or as one council, and I will continue to do that. They've also said that they want to see us invest in safe spaces as well as opportunities for additional mental health supports and gathering spaces, and they want us to invest in celebrating them. That's not just through, our Pride events, but every year, every day, making sure that we are lifting them up and saying, you are a part of our community, we love you, we care about you, and you belong here, and you belong to feel valued, safe, and supported. So as mayor, I will continue listening directly to our young people, hearing what they want to see me do to represent their community and elevating their voices and perspectives and their hopes through my office.
Your time is up. Thank you. All right. Oh my God, so many questions. Thank you all. This is great. Less than 5 businesses in Alexandria have earned Eco-City business recognition. How will you help increase participation in our community? This question is for Leah first.
I am so excited about this program, but more importantly, I'm excited that we are building our capacity to do outreach. The Office of Climate Action has just hired a new outreach specialist. Part of their job is to go door to door to businesses, meeting with them, letting them know about this program, as well as other city supports, and the ways in which this recognition can elevate their business and help them be as climate friendly and energy efficient as possible. So what I would do as mayor is I want to continue to invest in these outreach positions, making sure that we're not just going to the usual suspects, but we're going from King Street to Van Doren to Pickett, making sure that any business that is eligible, they know about these programs, and we're supporting them in the efforts that they can take to really transition to a more sustainable future.
Amy, same question. How will you help increase participation in the Eco-City business recognition program?
Thank you. Alexandria is pretty special because in 2008, we established ourselves as an eco city. And in the 16 years that we've had the environmental plan that we are living by now, we have established so many things, including the Green Business Award, the stickers that go in the windows. So being on the Visit Alexandria board, we were able to hear this firsthand. They are also helping us get out the word to all the businesses in the community, as well as our small business associations from Weba to Delray to Carlisle and everywhere in between. Our community members are competitive with each other, and all those businesses want to, say, no, I got it first. No, I got it first. No, look, we get to tell our patrons, look, we are at this level in our community. And that just keeps elevating Alexandria, and I think that's an amazing thing.
Thank you. We're going to stick on sort of this related topic for next couple questions. This is for Amy first. Will you pledge to not take campaign donations from fossil fuel companies, state-regulated utility companies, or their PACs?
So speaking to pledges, because I think everyone needs to hear this from me, I take the position that I don't sign pledges. If you look at my past council terms and the elections for them, I do not sign pledges. Every term, every election season, there are pledges to be signed. I do not. But I would honestly hope that you are going and checking to see where I stand on issues, look at VPAP, at my money, make sure you see something that you like and is relatable to you and not something that you don't like, especially concerning that question. So I try to hold the bar high, but it's also a grassroots campaign. But no, as of right now, I have not.
Aaliyah, same question. Will you pledge to not take campaign donations from fossil fuel companies, state-regulated utility companies, or their PACs?
Yes, I have not, and I will not.
All right, we'll move right along. We're not on track to meet the city's climate change goals because we aren't getting enough renewable and carbon-free electricity from Dominion. What will you do about this? Aaliyah.
I think the relationship that we have with Dominion is something that any mayor is going to have to navigate and stand firm in. We have policies, we've set goals, we have a direction that we want to see here in Alexandria. That means we have to continue to push for more rooftop solar as well as more large-scale solar initiatives. What I will do with Dominion is I've already started to have conversations with them. I think it's great that they invest in and support many of our nonprofits and groups, but if you're not helping us with our energy transition, that's the main thing we need you to be focused on. So I will stand firm in lifting up our priorities, and when they're not responding, use the authority that we have granted to us to push back.
Same question. We aren't getting enough renewable and carbon-free electricity from Dominion. What will you do about this?
Absolutely. So I'm too having the same conversations. I think it's unfortunate that Dominion, it was, 2 or 3 years ago when the lights went out on Arts on the Avenue. And that was Dominion. It was a bright, sunny day. And I bring it up every time I see someone from Dominion to make sure they remember that I remember. Because since then, they have been putting money into our nonprofits and into our city for a variety of events and saying, we support you, we're here. But the problem remains is until we have this issue solved, and honestly, a lot of others concerning Dominion Power, we have to keep being the nag and saying, where are you on this? To keep moving that marker just a little bit further, but I feel like it's pulling teeth.
All right. Both candidates support helpful, this is how it's written, policies. So I want to know how each candidate thinks she is truly and consistently different, and that's underlined, so it's truly and consistently from her rival. Amy, you are up first.
You said that really nervously. Okay, so I am different. Well, I'm different. I'm the hometown girl, right? Raised here, went to school here, have roots here, and proud to be an Alexandrian. Also, before I was on council, numerous boards and commissions that I know have helped me propel me to the place I am today. Whether I was chair of some city children's nonprofits, I was on the board of senior services for 6 years. I on the commission for women as well as the landlord and tenant commission. I was able to create a human trafficking awareness initiative nonprofit during my time on the commission. I was on the collaborative commission for children, youth, and families, and helped with the policy writing of the master plan that we are using today for 2025. So there's a lot there. I'm embedded into the fabric of Alexandria.
Your time is up. Thank you. All right. Same question, Aaliyah. How are you truly and consistently different from your rival?
I'd say, first and foremost, my knowledge of local government. My understanding of the policies and levers that we have available to us did not just start when I ran for office, but I've been working with cities for more than a decade, and that's why I've been able to move so many policies. I'd say second, it has been my ability not just to listen, but to act on what I've heard and to work with my colleagues to move results. The mayor is one person. It takes you being able to work with and move the entire council, and that is why I'm honored to have been endorsed by so many of my colleagues. And third, I would say my ability to build diverse coalitions. At my kickoff, there were people who live in multi-million-dollar mansions in Old Town, as well as families who are still spending the night in Carpenter's shelter. I have worked to try and pull together a diverse group of people who are facing a range of issues in our community, because that is the only way we're going to have a city that works for all of us.
All right. This next one is for Leah. What do you intend to do to maintain the character is spelled in all caps, of Old Town, as opposed to merely finding income for Alexandria? And by income, I assume the question asker means revenue.
I'd say two things. One, it's continuing to listen and engage with our residents in Old Town. I had a meet and greet several weeks ago with residents who live on Lee Street, and we talked a lot about how proud and excited they are about their historic homes, but how there are also things they want to do to their windows to preserve sort of their climate sustainability. And so it's listening and talking to them about the features that they fell in love with, the ways we can support them in continuing to have that historic character. I think also we have a tool in Old Town that we don't have anywhere else, which is the BAR. The BAR really sets forth standards and critical design guidelines that are meant to preserve historic Old Town, not just from an economic standpoint, but from a this is the feel, the experience, and the place we want to cultivate and sustain. So it's also working with our BAR to continue to make sure that we are respectful and responsive to those guidelines as we look at policy decisions in the old and historic area.
Amy, what do you intend to do to maintain the character of Old Town as opposed to merely finding revenue for the city?
Thank you. So when you say character, I equate that with quality of life. Old Town will always be the hook of Alexandria to bring in the tourists, bring in the visitors, and make sure they're spending outside dollars here. That's the money component. However, when you're bringing in zoning for housing and the arena, those are two catalysts that will change a neighborhood and its character completely as we are doing it. And I believe that's why people were so upset about not having that transparency set aside while we were communicating both of those in policy matters from the dais. I think that when we are looking at the character of Old Town and the city in general, we should remember that we have been here 275 years at least because it's our birthday. So things change, but the character has not over time, nor should it, because we are Old Town Alexandria and we can be modern and be neighbors with that particular part of Alexandria as well.
Thank you. Your time is up. All right. Given that increasing affordable housing and business tax income have been priorities for 20 years with limited success, what new ideas or approaches do you have to solve these problems?
Okay, repeat it one more time.
Given that increasing affordable housing and business
housing.
tax income, so commercial tax revenue, have been priorities for 20 years with limited success, what new ideas or approaches do you have to solve these problems?
Sure, thank you. Okay, so when we are looking at the affordable housing, the zoning for housing package that came through, 8 components. One of those is the office to residential component. What we need to be using are empty storefronts, buildings for. We need to look at them in terms of schools, in terms of nonprofits, in terms of businesses. We have to offer these things up. We have to bring developers to the table, no matter how badly, no one wants to hear that, I'm sure, in this room, but we have to work with the developers, not against them. Bringing them to the table and helping us as a catalyst for the affordable housing and for our business tax is essential going forward.
All right, same question.
I'd say when it comes to affordable housing, one of the challenges we faced in terms of meeting the goals and addressing the crisis has been we have a backlog of projects that are stuck and need financing. What I want to work with is our different boards and commissions, as well as our community members, on how do we identify some of those creative financing strategies, because as a government, we cannot do it alone. So how do we take the money we have and use that to unlock state dollars, unlock federal dollars from some of these new grant programs coming down from the federal government, but really thinking about how do we get our most strategic leverage. In terms of commercial revenue, I don't think this is rocket science, but I talked about this earlier. We really need a citywide strategy that leverages the whole of government. I think in the past, what I've observed is we have, AEDP, and they're doing great work, but they're in a silo. This takes all of us. It's the way we plan, it's the way we think about future developments, and it's the way we think about each of the tools that our different departments have so that we can unlock new economic development opportunities.
All right, your time is up, but you stopped talking, so made my job easy. All right, I think this is going to be our last audience question, and it is from someone who seems to be very aggrieved about the specific issue because they talk about their own personal experience with 3 air purifiers. And when they're home and leaving the doors and windows closed, but they can still smell the scent of marijuana. So this person's question, and we'll start with Aaliyah, is without ending the legal use of marijuana, what laws, amendments, or provisions can be put into place to eliminate secondhand smoke from getting into someone else's apartment or condo?
I mean, the reality is, so first of all, I want to say I empathize with your situation. You are one of many people who continue to email us about this very issue that they're facing. I hear from moms who are trying to put their babies to sleep. I hear from seniors, others who they are facing this. I have met with our health department. I've met with our legislative director, our city attorney, and others. Unfortunately, in a Dillon Rule state, we are very limited in what specifically we can do. There aren't really laws and policies we can do to stop your neighbor from smoking. With that being said, there are some things that you can do working with the landlord and tenant office and working with others, sort of working with that department as well as the Office of Human Rights around different things that you might be able to do in communicating with your neighbor. But unfortunately, legally, there aren't really avenues we can do to address that issue, and I recognize how much of a health concern that is, how much of a nuisance that is, and how much of a frustration that is.
All right, same question. What laws, amendments, or provisions can be put into place so our audience member here does not have to have a secondhand marijuana smoke seeping into their apartment?
So I'm still telling my kids that a skunk ran through the neighborhood because that's what it smells like. And it is unfortunate. It's not a laughing matter. Any smoke, whether it's marijuana smoke or otherwise, but this, you do have the remnants of the smoke. You're inhaling someone else's basically unhealthy lifestyle, right? So again, the only thing that we can do is go back to our delegation and say, now that you have passed these things, can you go back and maybe put in some stronger structures on them that we can institute here, as well as just no smoking. And I know that's what we've been able to do that in restaurants, and we have some places, of course, in the hospitality industry where you have certain rooms, you go outside, things like that. But it is an unhealthy lifestyle, and happy to continue to talk to our delegation about what we can do more of.
Okay, thank you for those answers, and thank you, audience members, for your very varied and interesting questions. I think that was kind of fun. We will now move on to our closing statements. So to review, you each get 2 minutes. We're going to start with Amy. And
You're listening to the testimony of your constituents. Why aren't you discussing?
This is not part of the program tonight. This is not part of the program tonight.
You screened out all of our questions in the center. So are you going to discuss your position on ceasefire recommendations? How many people didn't get their question answered tonight? Okay. You can leave. Are you going to respond? Or you can explain that. Is there a do you have a response to the recommendation?
This is not part of the program right now. I think we're gonna move on to the closing statements, and I think we can allow the candidates to address that question in their closing statements if they would like. We can allow the candidates to answer that question in their closing statements if they would like. We can allow.
Why have you ignored them? Why have you ignored your 5,000 Palestinian residents? 2 of my neighbors have lost dozens of family members to American weapons. We are a suburb of Washington, D.C. Why do we say nothing when our constituents' family members are your constituents? Family members are dying. He's looking at every public forum.
Hi. This is not part of the program. If we can.
Do you care? Do you have a comment?
If we can continue with the program, that would be great. If we can, okay, to the folks in the audience, to the folks in the audience, I think you have made your questions heard. To the folks in the audience, you have made your questions heard. We are going to continue with closing statements. If the candidates would like to address that point in their closing statements, they are certainly welcome to do so. But we need to give the candidates the floor because we only have this space for so long and we have to wrap up. All right, I think we're going to carry on. Again, closing statements, each candidate gets 2 minutes. Amy, you are first.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming this evening. I will say first and foremost, as a groupie of the Human Rights Commission, way before I was on council, all people are humankind and deserve to be treated with respect and kindness. As an Alexandrian, I know I was always considered maybe from the wrong side of the tracks growing up. And it always served a purpose for me that I could go somewhere and feel accepted and wanted and healthy and know I have friends that will look out for me and have my back. That's all around the world. That's not just Alexandria. Everyone should feel that way. As an Alexandrian running for mayor in her own hometown, it's been a privilege to be with you here this evening. I would hope that my campaign shows a great strength and momentum that everyone is seeing, knowing that I am everywhere. I'm listening to the people. We are out there knocking on doors. We are talking to our community members, and we're hoping to make a change. Please, please, come with me on my journey. Go to www.amyjacksonva.com for more information about me. Contribute to my campaign. It's a grassroots campaign. It takes money to make the outreach complete. I need volunteers to go knocking on doors with me. We have postcard warriors writing thousands of postcards for this campaign to get the message out. And of course, I ask for your vote between early voting on Friday, May 3rd to June 15th, right here in Old Town. There's only one door open to vote. It's at 132 North Royal every day, except weekends, until June 15th, and then on Election Day. Thank you very much.
Your time is up. All right. I think we need to let Councilmember Gaskins issue her closing statement. If I think we need to get back to the program, and in the interest of being respectful to the candidates here, we need to let Councilmember Gaskins issue her closing statement. You are certainly free to go up and interact with the candidates after the program. Aaliyah, your closing statement.
First and foremost, I just want to say thank you to everyone who is here tonight. To each of you, you are not just my constituents, you are my neighbors, and you are people who I care deeply about. That goes for you in the audience who are raising your concerns as well. I have taken every meeting that you've requested, I respond to every email, I show up, and I have tried to be very clear that I believe that both our Palestinian residents as well as our Jewish community residents also deserve to feel supported and valued in this community. If you want to stop me after, I will continue to have those conversations with you. In terms of tonight, we've talked a lot about many different issues, from transportation to schools, to many of the issues of today. None of us, though, can predict what will be the issues of tomorrow. What I hope that I have shown you in my leadership is that I am somebody who will always show up. I'm somebody who's going to do the hard, nitty-gritty work of government that is required to move forward the policies and the systems changes that you are asking us for. I'm proud of the work that I've been able to do on this council, and I hope to be able to continue to work with you to serve as your mayor. If you have questions about my campaign, if you want to join us as we close out these last couple weeks, please visit my website at www.aaliyahforalexandria.com or see one of my volunteers who's out in the hallways. So thank you for your time tonight, and I look forward to more conversations with you.
All right. Again, if you have specific questions for the candidates, you are welcome to approach them after the program. With that, thank you everyone for coming out. Thank you to the Alexandria Democratic Committee for having the three of us. And everyone get out and vote.